Hello, 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 everyone. You're back at the book bar, right? It just seems so long ago since we were here, right? So tonight we are back with Sherelle Green and Sherelle. How about them crowns, huh? So Sherelle, you have been doing some amazing things. But first I want to say congratulations on your newest release in the Crown series. I think this is book number 10, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, congratulations on that. You have certainly given us a series to remember with this one here. So, thank
Thank
you
you
for that.
so much.
Yes. Hi there, Miss Ann. We're just going to
Hi,
invite a few
Ann.
people in here. Hey, Ann. So, come on in, guys. I hope you guys, I know that this is not normally when I go live, but I'm hoping that you guys can come on in. We're going to try to be good and not divulge any spoilers for those who need to wait
Ooh,
until
I know.
Friday, maybe to take in the book. But it's gonna be hard, I'm telling you, because I got so much. So okay, so and yep. Okay, and then we got JB in the house. Hey, Miss
Hi,
JB,
Jamie.
how are you? Okay, Maisha is out there. Hey, Maisha, thank you for joining us. Um, Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Hey there, Miss Jasmine. Thank you so much for jumping on. Thank you for jumping on. We got Linda's out here. Hello, 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 everybody. Oh, and listen, Miss Brenda, I knew she wasn't gonna miss it. Hey, Miss Brenda.
I'm nervous.
I no, Well, we can't really go into it, but you got to come back, y'all. We gonna have to have her back, because we're gonna really do a powwow. So I'm gonna try to be good, but I might slip a little bit. So y'all, y'all be with me, pray with me, okay? Hey, Veronica. Nice to see you out there. It's wonderful to see you out there. Hey, Andrea. Hey, that's my little sissy out there. Hey, it's nice to see you out there. So okay, so tonight, guys, thank you for joining us. We have Sherelle Green in the book bar today, and we are talking about Crown Legacy. And then specifically for her newest release is Creed, but we're gonna kind of stay away from that because it's been a long time since Sherelle has visited, and so we got a lot of stuff to touch base on. So we're gonna start kind of look up a little bit further, and then we're gonna kind of wing our way down to Creed. But you know, Creed, as of late, Creed is a very dynamic part of the series
Mhm.
as of late. So it's gonna be kind of hard to stay away from him. So
That's true.
we're gonna do the best we can. So, it's all good in the neighborhood, right? Hey there, Miss Ruby.
Hi, Ruby.
Sharon, hey. Let me see.
Yeah.
I think Ann has a question. We can ask if there's some cousins that continue to share. Actually, we are going to talk a little bit about that, because this series is so connecting.
Mhm.
So and I don't know. I'm gonna say for me, it's not hard to read it, but I would think that it would be a little bit difficult for you to write it. So we're gonna dive in a little bit on that, and so make sure you stick around. Hey there, Miss L. Wright. How are you, my dear? Good to have you out there. Hey there, hey there. Yep. It is. It is. Well, it's a good thing, JB, honey. Listen, I don't need no open doors because you know me, I'll bust that thing wide open. Hey there, Cheryl. Okay, so guys, we're gonna get started. Hey, Miss Louise, how are you doing? We're gonna get started, but we're gonna have Sherelle kind of tell us who she is in her own words. Sherelle, you have the floor. Tell everybody a little bit about you.
Well, hi, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I'm excited to talk about the crowns and hopefully not give away too many spoilers. I will try myself. But I am a contemporary romance author, but I write late, especially of late, grittier, edgy, emotional romance that kind of pulls at your heartstrings. The Crown Legacy series is currently, I shouldn't even say this, but my favorite series right now that I have been working on. Um, and I also have been in the industry for a little over a decade, and I have out, I think, about 50, I think this was book 54 If
Oh, wow.
so
Congratulations. Yeah, that is great. Every time I talk to you and like in this kind of setting here, I
Mhm.
always go back to our first meet,
Oh, yeah.
because you have been on quite the journey. And I am so super proud of you. I mean,
You.
oh my gosh, we met, just a little bit of history with Sherelle. We met at a book conference, and she was a reader, and she gives a whole new light of the fact that writers are usually readers before
Yeah.
they are
Oh,
writers.
yeah.
Writers.
1000%.
And she was a writer. We just talking, about the event and everything, and then fast forward to what was it, like maybe 3 years,
I think
you
it was
know
it was a couple years. It was 2 years later.
Yeah. 2 years later, I run into her at another book event,
Yep.
and I'm super focused because it was a Miss Bev event, come and think of it, and we
We were
went
very
there.
upset. We were upset because we couldn't get her books. She had ran out of her books, and we were venting. And then I'm staring at her. I'm like, "Wait, I know you. Like, I haven't seen you in a couple years."
Right,
So,
right,
yeah.
right, right. And then she told me she was an author, and it was there. I come home, and I mean, I like literally hit every reader I knew and said, "Hey, you guys, stop what you're doing, because I got a writer that I want you guys to check out." And it's been like, oh my God, it's been just a wow.
I know. We're
Um,
family now.
yeah. But now, Sherelle, now you started in Kamani,
Mhm. I did.
right?
Yes.
So for those of you all who know Kamani, it's she started in the romance. I wouldn't say that it was like sweet romance, but it was some romance, and quite a bit different from what
Definitely
the
different.
Crown series is,
It's
right?
definitely different than the Crown series. Probably if anyone's read my Tamaria Madden series, that series actually was a spinoff of other stories that were my Kamani stories for my lead event series. That was the first series that I wrote, the first books that I actually wrote that came
Hmm.
out with Kamani. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I personally feel like they've always been edgier, but I feel like the grittiness of Crowns is a different level for me than
Yeah. And I want to say, I think when you first released the Crowns, they were titled The Crown Legacy.
yeah.
But now I notice now they are listed as a mafia.
I was trying to, you know, make sure I prepare people. So I think the issue I ran into is if anyone had picked up one of my Kamanis, or even if they picked up the Tamaria Madden series, and then they, like, for example, picked up Sins of a Saint, it's like they went from, reading about probably someone who was just a business owner and, who's a painter and sculptor. And I love those stories too. But then it turns around and I was writing about a cleaner who cleans up dead bodies for a living. And
Mm,
you
mm.
know, it was his girl who does probably a little bit more questionable stuff. So I realized in the marketing of the series, I had to put out there that it was definitely like a darker, grittier, edgier series, just to prepare people. I don't want anyone to ever pick it up and be like, "This is not what I thought it was," and not be prepared. So,
Well, there's going to be those times there's going to be people to do
oh
that
yeah,
anyway,
oh
right?
yeah,
But speaking of the sculpture, Saint was a little bit of a sculptor himself in his own right, though. You know what I mean? So he had that that cleaning business all down pat. But here's the thing I want to know. I mean, this series is it is just amazing. I love family series, anyways, and the
yeah.
unique the better for me. But each one of these characters that you have that's in this family, it's 10 of them, brothers and sisters, siblings, right?
Mhm.
And each one of them are very unique. They're like not one of them are the same, right?
Right. No, they're all different. So I guess just a little about the series. If no one is familiar with it, is the Crown Legacy series is surrounding a affluent Chicago couple who decided to adopt 8 siblings. And it was all siblings that were either in foster care or some that they adopted as babies, or all of the siblings have their own unique stories as well as the parents. And it's like they they adopted them also because they saw them for a greater purpose, their greater mission that they had in the world, which is basically to end sex and human trafficking. And so they knew that they can kind of raise these kids up to, um, I guess, fight for the cause, fight alongside them for a cause, for a bigger cause than what they probably would have otherwise dived into just in the world. So you know, you have the cleaner, you have the enforcer, you know, you still have the siblings who also work in law enforcement or work for the law, like as lawyers, and then you have the ones that are investors. So all of their careers are kind of different. But that's what's unique about this family.
Mm. Well, you forgot one little thing. Yeah, you got all of those
But
things, but you also have someone that is on the street.
oh
So,
yes.
yeah, and I think you it's a well-rounded family. And when you think about it, if you really have your eyes wide open,
Hmm.
and not necessarily in Chicago, and kudos to you, like really spotlighting us in a light
Oh
that, you
yeah.
know, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? If you really pay attention to your surroundings, you know that this family is not far off from the truth.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, if they underground, they might keep it quiet, but you know that this is real.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is real. And not all questionable people, as you tell
No.
the story, not all questionable people are bad,
Right.
you know, as we see in this story here. But now, what formula did you use to give
Hmm.
each one of these characters heartbeats?
Well, so I had this idea years before the series actually came out, and I just think it was about um, wanting to write about. I'm from Chicago. I love Chicago, so I definitely wanted to spotlight that. So I think anytime someone reads it and feels like they learned something about the city, I love that. But I
Hmm.
wanted to write about also like the underground parts that you may not, know that goes on, like the business meetings or like the politician dinners or like just certain things like that. And for me, it was a lot of also seeing if I could, maybe talk to real life people who would inspire a certain character and like see if I can, get any information more on even the city. Just because I grew up here didn't mean that I knew so many different parts. And so that was really instrumental for me, was just being able to look, I guess, at the place that I grew up with a different set of eyes to see if I can be as authentic as I could with the series.
Okay. And I would imagine that, because now that I realize that, you know, this is considered a mafia series,
Mhm.
there are certain ingredients that has to go into a story to be considered a mafia series.
Yeah.
When you were writing this, or when you were fashioning it as a mafia series, what was the research like for this, and what were the things that you knew you had to have in here for it to be considered that?
I think for me, it was knowing. I've always been, I guess that's part of going back to my Kamani days. I've always been the type of writer who research like, okay, well, if I'm writing this genre, what does it include and what does it have to entail for me to call it this or for me to include it for that? I very much say throughout the series that they just consider themselves family, but
Hmm.
what the world may consider them is different. know? So I think the one of their taglines is some say mafia, they say family, because that's just all it is for
Mhm,
them. And so it took just researching just what are different types of elements that need to be included the same way you would a rom-com. So,
yeah,
and it's just I know that like I love to outline. So um for me, anything that was like a darker story or romantic suspense, or because this is very much like a romantic suspense series too. I feel like if you pick up, book 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, it's not like it would be an issue if a story is calling to you. But I very much feel like you should read it in order,
mm,
because I feel like it's just underlining elements in each story that kind of helps make the series as a whole. And
mhm,
so for me, I went into it knowing that I wanted to give the happily ever after for each couple at the end, but I wanted to be certain elements that were consistent throughout the whole series, which kept you kind of excited to see what would happen in each book, like with the family as a whole.
Yeah. And I think you've done that. But also too that, as far as like the mafia, like, we watch mafia movies and stuff, and you put it spot on. Really, it's just a family.
Hmm.
It's just a very unique family,
Right.
is what it is. So yeah, so I would think that you could easily classify that as the mafia. But now at some point when you first started writing this,
Mhm.
I think as a reader, I would have to say that yes, true to the form, you might be able to pick up um, one book and maybe not read it in order and be
Yeah.
still okay.
Mhm.
That was very early on.
Yeah. Right.
But that
Exactly.
quickly turned into something where, there was a few crumbs that was, left in each book. And
Mhm.
I feel like by the time you got to Pharaohs, and then after Pharaohs, it
So
was
Pharaoh's,
over.
for 6 through 10 is
Yeah,
that I don't even ever recommend people read it out of order just because I just feel like you get kinda, lost with the series as a whole, but
yeah,
I think I've never written a series that's as interconnected as this one is. Like, out of all of my books, this one was one that was definitely, like, read them in order type of
yeah.
situation.
I agree. And if
Mhm.
you guys, if you're just joining us, thank you, by the way. Congratulations. We're congratulating Sherelle on her newest release, In Creed We Trust, which is the 10th book in the Crown Legacy series. And welcome, welcome, welcome. We got a couple of names I just want to call out. I seen Christy out there. I seen Mary, Pamela, Tony, Brenda, Myra, Loretta, and Deborah and Ruby. And hey there, Miss Prissy. She's out there. Miss Ruby has a question. Well, she has a comment. Hey there. She has a comment about you have to read them in order because they're all yeah. And that is true too. They are. That is perfectly said. But here's another thing too. Sherelle, this series is so connected. It's
Mhm.
almost like a spider web of
Yes.
all of your catalog.
Mhm. Oh, that is very true.
And I don't know when you started out like this, how did you get here?
I started so I knew I wanted to write the Crown Legacy series when I wrote Red Velvet Kisses, and that was the 3rd book that I
Oh,
ever wrote, and it was with Kamani, and
yeah.
so so this was planned, so if it's like I'm on book, 50 plus, and I knew from book 3 that I
Mhm.
was just waiting to get here, which is how I also have outlined, like, probably, like, the next 20 books I know I wanna come out with.
Yeah.
So it's just how my brain works. And I think, for me, it's like if you read about, especially if I'm writing about Chicago so much, it doesn't matter if it's my Tamaria Madden series or my Naughty Season series or my Crown Legacy series. If you read about like a certain coffee shop, like Brood Awakening Bakery is the same coffee shop that's in all of those series because I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to recreate the wheel because I'm creating my world. So I
Mhm.
want you to feel like no matter which characters or what series you're reading, you still feel like you're still in the same city, like in the world that I've been building.
Yeah.
So I try to stay consistent with that, which means that if I'm already, even if I'm on one series, even if it has nothing to do with that family, I still have certain elements that would feel like it's probably more connected than they are.
Well, I think when you first started the Crown series, and I've been following you for a long time. I myself had to do my own series Bible
Yeah.
because I was just reading one of those spin-offs, one of those those Kamani books. I think it was you were with Cheryl Lister or something like that.
Oh,
I
right.
picked it up.
Her Christmas wish. I think you're talking about her Christmas wish. We had the
Yeah.
duo. Yeah.
And I had just met Nash,
Yes.
and he was connected to
He
what's
was
his name?
connected to Luke. So his
Luke.
half brother is Luke that was in my last Kamani book actually, that ever came out.
Yeah, yeah. And absolutely, me and Sherelle has said
Oh,
this multiple times. This series could be really. It would have to be encompasses of all for you to get the whole thing. But if we could just get just the crowns in there, that would be great. But it was her Christmas wish, which was way back when,
Mhm.
you were still writing for Kamani at the time. And I'm sure that this was turning in your head.
Mhm.
You were trying to figure out how you were gonna get here, right? And then bam, you start right with Face Down Friday. Now, and let's talk about your titles too. Let's talk
Okay.
about the titles of your books. And also, you got this little thing you do now where you give us these chapter titles
Oh,
and
yeah.
you give us little quotes with them too.
Mhm.
So Face Down Friday, we're Face Down Friday, and this was the introduction to the crowns. And we're all worried, like, what is Sherelle gonna do now? Da, da. And then these covers were like boom, dead in your face, different, so different,
Oh,
dark, elegant but dark.
mhm.
And then I find out, my wig was flipped when I found out that Nash was a crown,
Yes.
right? And so then wait, we found out he was a crown. No, we found out about the crowns in Carter's book.
In
And,
Carter's
and
is
then
doing, yeah.
and then we found out that
You
he
met the crowns there,
yeah,
but you didn't know that Nash was a crown in Her Christmas Wish, which was the
right.
Kamani story.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and that was purposely done on my part, so I didn't wanna reveal it in that story.
Mhm.
So I purposely waited before I
Yeah.
revealed.
No, I totally understand that. I get that, totally. But now I will have to say Creed, and you guys, I'm gonna jump a little bit. I'm gonna try to stay away from Creed as much as possible because I know I might slip. But Creed and Creed's story and Carter's story, they read a lot alike.
Mhm.
I think as far as intensity and darkness, those two read just alike. But now I don't want to discount Jedediah's book too.
Yeah.
So those three were like really what I would say pulled at your heartstrings
Mhm.
a lot. And I think with Carter, I don't know about anybody else, but Carter still resonates with me. So that's how,
I
yeah,
love Carter. I love Carter, and, I think I also wrote it in my dear reader for, in Creed Read Trust, but the feelings that I got working on Creed's story were the same feelings that I had when I was working on Carter's story. So, I think for me as the author, um, I was very emotionally invested in Creed's story. I mean, obviously for a lot of reasons as to what he's been through in this series, which I'm gonna work on not ruining anything either, but it was also because I just loved, um oh no, that'll ruin something. Yeah, so I can't even say that, but it's
I was just thinking about a question
I
I
know,
wanted
I was
to
like,
ask you.
yeah, so I definitely was having those feelings and having those vibes, and, I felt them with Jedediah too, but if we ever talk back to this or maybe when we're not on
Oh, we definitely coming
live,
back.
I'll
We
tell you
coming
why
back.
I felt it even more for Creed's than Jedediah's.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but they
And
were
I
just
love
having
Jackie D's story. I love it, but
yes.
that feeling that I had, I got with Creed's.
Yeah. 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 Now, okay, so these titles now.
Yes.
Okay. Where are they coming from? Like what's going on with the titles? Where are they coming from?
Um, so Face Down Fridays, that title I actually struggled with quite a bit. I went back and forth, because even though, it has the whole middle name tying in with Nash type of thing with the Downton, it was really hard trying to come up with the title for that book. And my husband actually came up with Face Down Fridays and a High Class Society book that I have, a Blue Sapphire Invitation, and High Class Society is a series that I have with Angela Seals. And so he had coined that term for that book. And so because Jade was in that story and it was her, um, I guess her naughty lounge that was highlighted in that book, then I went ahead and was like, okay, it'd be perfect for the title of the first one, especially because it's a prelude. It's just kind of it's the naughty interest into the series. But I think the series for the crowns really starts with Sins of a Saint.
Yeah.
So it's like, Jade's story and Nash's story is just getting you kind of used, but at the very end, you get to meet all of the siblings, and it's like, okay, this is the family that you met in Carter's story. This is the rest of them. They're going to be getting a story soon, but I mean, a series soon. But you don't really get into the grit of it into Sins of a Saint. And so that title to me came super easy. I would
Mhm,
say every other title came easy, but anyone who knows me and knows how close I am to my sister, Kelsey Green, who is also an author, she is like a great at titles. So
mm,
I will say half of the titles in this series came from her. Like I would come up with something, she's like, that doesn't fit, and she would change it. And
mhm,
so I ended up loving like how all the titles came back. But when I tell you we outlined all of the titles together. She helped me outline them, and we probably spent over 2 or 3 hours scratching out titles, changing it to another title, scratching it out, changing it
mhm.
to another one. So it took a while, but
Yeah. But I think Face Down Friday, like you said, I do totally agree. The Legacy series didn't really start to Sense of a Saint, but
mhm,
I think you did two things in Face Down Friday. You introduced us to the crowns, but then you kind of gave us a little bit of a taste of what was going to come with the Black Lush.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Because she's important. Jade is such an important part to the Black Lush world.
mhm,
And I think, if anyone had read like Caden's Situationship, he actually mentions Black Lush. And I had another part of my social experiment series was Bad Decision, Good Regrets. And
mhm,
that heroine Ivy, she worked for Black Lush. So the name had been sprinkled throughout books already. And so I just needed to go more into that world even before I get to Keaton's story. I wanted to just kind of like get people back used to that. And before I started Naughty Season, which
mhm.
was a spinoff of, I guess, of Social Experiment and of The Crowns.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I said, it's a spider web. You know what I mean? You just and just people are getting caught up in it in different ways. I just want to speak to Ola. Ola, if you're behind in the series, that's okay, because we do not want you to rush through this series. So take your time, enjoy them because they're very enjoyable. But
Okay.
you have to read them. You have to, go from one to the other before you
Yeah.
get the series. So take your time, but hurry up. Yes, Miss Prissy, you definitely need to jump on the bandwagon. I've been talking to you for a while about this. So, yep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They are really a treat.
Oh,
So
Ruby.
now, again, I'm gonna go back to take you back to research for this.
Okay.
So Sins of a Saint, he is the cleaner.
Mhm.
Now, I I know you have an imagination. We all do. But you wrote this series where it was packed so to the point where, I could visualize
Mhm.
him being in that job. And you told the story from how he got started, from watching somebody else. So where did this come up from exactly? And did you have to do any research on it?
I had already had the idea, so it was something that was already in my mind, but I did have to do research because obviously that was something I did not know about. But I thought through the course of this series, I'm realizing too with us talking, I've had to go through 2 laptops, and I feel like it's almost because of some of the stuff I have to look up for this series, some of the research things I have to Google. Like I just wonder like if someone randomly looked at my like I'm just like, man, like that's just people have passed by or you're in a cafe or something. You're like, I hope they don't look and see what's on my screen because I'm having like I don't know the right way to cut up dead bodies. So I have to research that,
Right,
and
right.
researching it, you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm just feeling, they follow everything you do online. And I said, this just all looks terrible. Um,
Mm.
so
You know,
it
you
was
know
at one point I started going on some public computers trying to see if I can look up some stuff because I was tired of messing with my laptop.
they said whenever you try to look for something, they said, "Oh, just Google it." So, yeah, yes, you
Oh,
do have to, Loretta. That's why I'm saying it's not just one of those pick up a book and just read it and see how
I
fast you can
have
get
to
through it.
digest them
Yeah,
too.
you
Even
do have to. But now, they have a saying for that too, Sherelle. They says, don't pay attention to my search on my computer. I'm just an
Mhm.
author.
I know.
Like that makes a
The
difference.
truth. I mean, but it is the truth. It's like you
Yeah.
look up stuff and it's just, I mean, I started just using different devices. I said, let me give me an iPad. Let me use the iPad so everything's not just on my main laptop. It's just the random stuff. And yes, the search history, even when you put it private, you feel like they can see what I'm doing.
Right. Do you hear any helicopters across, your house when you're in your house doing your research?
I've
I
I've made myself like I've written so much where it's gotten dark outside and the lights are off, and I may be in a scene and I may write something that's, once again, I'm thinking about creeds and I don't want to give anything away, but um something involving a bathroom scene. So for those that had read it, you may could think of what I'm talking about, but it was just something that I loved. I love the situation that the heroine was in for this particular scene, but I did not recognize that every single light was off in my house. There was no, I usually have music going. The music was off. My candle had apparently went all the way down to the wick. And that's when we had that, when it was raining out here.
Oh, that storm.
Yes. And so I lost my mind by scaring myself
Oh my
with
god.
realizing that I said, I can't believe I let it get this dark. Then couldn't get the power back on. It was just a whole mess. So I
Mm,
scare myself
mm.
in, in the research for it and the writing of it.
So let's go back to the title. So we know how you got to your titles, but
Mhm.
what is the significance of you giving us those chapter titles?
The headers. So
Mhm,
I have always loved to give chapter headers. For me, the social experiment series was the first time that I started doing
mhm.
something like that. And they were a little bit, it was a rom-com series. So they were definitely like funnier, like, and things like that. And for this particular series, I wanted to make sure I didn't hold myself too accountable where if in one book they got quotes from a character, I didn't want to all of a sudden feel like, okay, every book they have to do have quotes for a character. So I kind of just see how the book is going and then I see what comes to me. So it may just be like a statement, it may just be a motto that they live by, or it may be a quote from a character, a secondary character in the book, which I've done too. And all of it is just kind of a way of, it all has something to do with whatever chapter you're about to read. So it's almost like a little heads up
Mhm.
that this is what you're about to dive into. But I also like when people, if it makes people think, or if it makes people like reflect on something, with them, like if it is a quote or if it is something shared like that. I like when it makes people think about things. So it's something I don't think I would ever stop doing just because I love to do it.
Well,
Um,
how difficult is it? Because you started with the social experiment.
mhm.
Let me pause 1 second. Andrea, hey, I put in there a link for Amazon for it's for the whole series. So you can just hit that link and then kind of pick and choose, which ones at your leisure on there. So happy reading. Uh I was gonna say you know I'm not a writer, but for me, I would just think like, how much time do you have to spend on those little quotes that you give us? Because you started it in social experiment,
So much time.
yeah, but you got it in the Hood's book, you got
Yeah,
it in the Crown's book, and then you got it in the Black Lush,
yeah, I
the
think I
one.
have it in. I think it's in most of my books now.
Mhm.
And they take probably more time than what they should take.
I bet.
Sometimes I have to step away from it and go back. Sometimes I have to um, write them before, like I mean, after I end the series. Like
Hmm.
sometimes I do before. So if it's not flowing, I'll do it after. But other times, especially when I do it before, it may outline the whole entire book to me just because I fall in love with the chapter header.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I may think the book is going one way and I have this chapter header that I really want to use. And I'm like, nope. like I gotta change the whole chapter, which I know doesn't make sense. It's like you're gonna change the whole chapter for like less than 10 words. But I
Yeah.
would do something like that if I feel that passionate about what the header is and if I want to share it with readers and can't find another place where it fits.
Mm. Well, and I would think that too, if if you're writing the series, I think either it's going to come to you before or it's going to
Mhm.
come to you after, and then you just kind of fill them in if it's one of the afters.
Right.
For me, it would have the scene would have to be there, and then I think of something like quirky. I really did. I think you've spoiled us when we did the social experiment with Meek. Meek was the first one
Yeah.
that we had, and I think we just all instantly, fell in love with this girl from the block, right? Because she was
Mhm.
just straight crazy, but she was like that friend. Everybody need a Mika in their life. So we love that, and now we come to expect it. So I hope that's not wrong.
No,
And
I
hope
mean,
it doesn't
I'm
give you
glad people
any
come to expect it because, sometimes I think like, oh, like I hope it's not, getting annoying if they be like, oh, more chapter headers, but it's something that I just love doing. It's right up
anxiety.
there with me loving like the first lines of books or the first lines of chapters. It's just certain stuff that I think as authors, like for me, it's certain
Mhm,
parts of a book that I need for one of my books for it to feel complete for me. And
mhm,
I've done times where I've left off like a chapter header and I'm like, oh, this book doesn't need it. Or it's like a short story. I think in my naughty season, Make Me Confess, I was like, oh, it doesn't need it. And then it feels like it's missing something.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
I
because you
can't
come
I
to
can't move on.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Hey, Angela, thank you for joining us. How are you? Yeah, Mika. Everybody love Mika. But now, like, let's go back into Mika. These are really strong characters who really walked us through this journey getting to the Crown series. They pretty much showed us a bird's eye view of the neighborhood before we got there.
that's true.
You know what I mean? And
Yes.
they just kind of paved the pavement. So they gave us the fun sides of town, and then you go on the Crown Legacy block, and then look, don't come prepared on that unprepared on that Crown block. You just can't do it. You got people scared to mess with women that the Pharaoh may have been sweet on in the
Oh,
past. It's
yes,
just
yes. That
it,
is so that and that's what I liked. I like for you to pick up a rom-com or like with Mika, all of hers was it may be her chasing her ex down the street, because she trying to do an interview, but then if it's like it's so many different little like nuggets, I guess, that are left throughout the book that I try to then keep with that same block that's the one Pharaoh's walking down when he's about to go to the alley to go down to his underground office that he has.
hmm
And it's just a different view. It's like, that Mika's book, Single AF, came out, in 2019. And it's like, how is that the same block and alley that you're reading about in Pharaoh's story that came out in 2021? But I like doing things like that because it's the same, it's the same neighborhoods, it's the same, groups of people. It's just they have different views because they live different lives.
hmm
He said,
yeah.
"Will there be any more books in the social experiment series?" So, probably not because the the second book in the social experiment series was Bad Decisions, Good Regrets, and that's where you met the hoods in that story. And then I went off and did Naughty Season, which is surrounding the hoods, and it gave more of those cousins, Theseus's cousins, who's the hero in that book. More of them got stories. So are more of the social experiment people going to get stories? Yes, but will they be part of the social experiment series? Probably not.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
Good, great question, Ruby.
Mhm.
So like just like that Ruby's there, you got all of these series. Like I said, you got them there. So Sherelle, how do you keep all of this straight? Because I think when I read them, I mean, I'm not getting anything like you don't reuse names, you don't really reuse scenes unless they're connecting like a book that is connected to the previous book or whatever. So how do you do
That's
it?
if I reuse names, that's probably a key you gonna see, like, it's probably the same person, just
Mm,
different, you know? And so I do that, but, like, my notes are crazy. I
mm,
have probably over 200 pages if you just had them on a if when I open up the Word doc that I have, but I also have different systems and things like that that I use for filing notes. And I keep track of all of the names of all of the places I introduced, and like the cities that may be made up. Um, like Summerlin, Michigan is a place that I made up. Cranberry Heights, Arkansas, in the Mattis series is a made up place. But obviously, Chicago is a real place. But if
Hmm.
I want them to coexist in the same world, which is real, and so that means a new series.
Probably so, Pam. Probably so.
If I want them to exist in that world, then that means I have to keep track of it. So my documents are and my outlines are crazy. So now, even with as I was working on the Crown series, there will be new series coming out because I have four more that are outlined, as a result of people that you met within this world.
Okay.
So in order to do that, I have to keep track of it because I'm not going to be able to reread every single Crown book and every single Madden book every time I'm about to write. So I have to keep detailed notes
Yeah.
just to make sure that I don't miss anything that I'm trying to say.
Okay. So, like, so I'm envision. I don't know. This is how I would do it if I had to do that. So I'm envisioning a big, huge binder, probably like 5 inches wide.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking tabs, like Crown. You got it near you?
I was trying to see if I had it near me, but I don't. I don't have it near me. I don't have it near me because I would show you. I do. It is a binder. I also have it where I did a spiral bound part with the whole first up until like the Crown Legacy, even before I finished it. So I have parts that I've added in there and blank pages that I kept in there. But I love planners. I create planners.
Hmm.
And so I did that for myself just to keep track, Brenda, like the Mavericks.
True. 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 True.
And so I keep all of that stuff, like together in different planners, different binders, different stuff like that. But then I also have it digitally because I could be on vacation. One of my best
Mhm.
friends, she lives in Abu Dhabi. I go see her quite a bit, and that's on a whole other side, like a 9 hour time difference. And I had brought my binder there once, or one of mine, and I actually left it there. She couldn't find it. I was upset, but I had it all digitally, so I was able to reprint it,
Yeah.
and things like that. But I told myself never again where I travel even out the country and like bring that with me. So that's something
Mm.
that stays just local. So I
Okay.
keep it digitally too because then I can add notes to it anytime I need to.
Yeah. But I mean, you still would have to know. I mean, even though you can't keep all of that in your head, but you still have to know like some scene that you're going to put in one series that happened in
Mhm.
another series. So you got to even know where to navigate
Yep.
to,
What
go get
page
that.
number it is and which part it comes, what's the chapter. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so, what I find ironic about that is that, I may talk to you, about it, after I'm reading something, and I'll be
Mhm.
like, what? Who is this? And whatever. And, I try to pride myself on like writing down like the different characters and everything.
Right.
But like, if I'm reading something from like when you started, like, say, let's just say Meek's book, right? And now we into, the hoods and the crowns and everything. I'm like this one lone character that was a secondary, even third character. I don't remember that. And then you all just so put most authors, they just, oh yeah, you remember he was the one that was the cousin and everything. No, I don't remember.
I don't see, and I don't expect people to remember because I know that. I mean, y'all read, everybody reads so many books. I'm like, I don't even remember my own characters sometimes in secondary characters in books until I like look it up just to even talk to you today. I'm like, I've been writing on the Crown series, but I had to make sure I knew my own series before.
Right, right, right. Well, yeah, you gotta know.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Okay, so now we got you okay, so the entire series
Mhm.
for the Crown series, there was one mission involved.
Yes,
But we didn't really get a real clear understanding of their mission really until
until Duchess's
Duchess's
story.
book. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? We got some like little flashes of it, but we really couldn't get it until she told her story.
Hmm.
What made you choose that mission? What inspired you to choose that mission for this
Um.
series?
So I guess I mean I know we know about things that's going on and we may see things on the news and stuff like that, but it was a few years ago. Like I love my city. I say this all the time. I know you feel the same way.
Mhm.
And, and I don't like when I see negative stuff like on the news and things like that all the time. But I will say that there was a situation that happened, and it was someone who I knew, and someone who I was pretty close to, and her daughter and her niece were both taken. They were part of the whole when they said a lot of white vans were coming on the streets of Chicago, and
Mhm.
a lot of that was going on. And I felt like as much as they share on the news, they were barely sharing it about this.
Mhm.
So we had those rallies, and I know Midnight, we've talked about this,
Mhm.
separately because they had the rallies. I was attending rallies. It was um not just not just eye opening, but it was devastating, to be honest. It was terrible. And I just was thinking like I already had this series that I was writing. I already had a cause that I knew I kind of wanted to focus on, but I said, well, what if I dive into it even more?
Mhm.
And and that's what I guess my heart just would not let me not dive into it in this series. And I felt like, it's always teetering that line between when you write things and you try to figure out what trigger warnings do I put in the books,
Mhm.
how much do I say where it's not going to take it away from, um, from readers actually just getting to enjoy the series. And I think for me, um, that was probably also partly why, like I'm gonna wait to get people invested before I start diving into everything.
Mhm.
But that's also why I knew with the spinoffs, with everything like that, I'm like, if I can get people used to reading this Crown Legacy series, which is different for me, it is edgier, it is darker, it is grittier and more emotional. But it's the type of stories that I wanted to tell for so long that I said I'm gonna start with this series and then just kind of get people used to me highlighting some of that stuff um, that I wanted to tackle that probably otherwise was not on my original plans, but I felt inclined to have to talk about it.
Yeah, and that's what I meant when I said earlier. I appreciate you writing in that for two reasons. One, and I agree with L. Wright.
Yes.
I think I enjoy when because I read so much and it's one of my favorite things to do. I don't really like to look at the news because of the fact that
Mhm.
it's nothing good. It's never nothing good. And so you can't watch too much of that stuff because you can't have all of that stuff in your spirit because, it affects you after a while. But what I do love when I see authors tackle those difficult or sensitive subjects is that it makes you aware. And
Yeah.
so I feel like for me, I'm being informed, but I'm taking it in a different type of way, in the way I could receive it. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I get a story, yeah, I get a happy ending, but I don't discount the messages and I call them nuggets. You guys, if you ever hear me call the nuggets, it's because, you're reading stuff and you're getting some nuggets out of it. It might be an inspirational nugget. It might be something where you make you aware and you need to, have your head on swivel when you out, like those white vans. Those white vans were so prevalent you couldn't get away from it. Even if you didn't look at TV, it was on, the radio, it was everywhere. It was even on the YouTube videos and stuff.
Mhm.
So you couldn't get away from that. And you do still need to be aware of them. I think like the killer clowns, I'm afraid of the white vans, so I stay
Yeah.
away from them.
Mhm.
uh, but yeah, I do appreciate you telling that the story there, and Elle, so true. I mean, and even Elle herself, she has tackled some
Mhm.
really sensitive subjects where I've read and they've hit home,
Mhm.
but she wrote it in a way where it doesn't make you feel so depressed, like somebody else is going through it and you can see how they come, how they're able to get through it.
I think too, because me and Elle have talked about this as well. I feel like it's also when you're the author, sometimes you're not in a place to be ready to tell a story yet.
Mhm.
So part of it too, when certain things, and I can't speak for all authors, like I said, we were talking about this. Sometimes with a book or a series, for me, if something isn't happening right away too, it may mean that for me and my spirit, it was too much for me to like I
Mhm.
was too emotional to write that scene at that particular time or that particular moment. And then I have to wait until I feel like I feel a little better about, okay, I can actually focus on it and do it justice, because the last thing I want to do is make something seem like I rushed it or just kind of, skimmed over it or things like that.
Mhm.
So I think that's what it is too when it comes to being authors, being romance authors in particular, when you want to focus on the love and relationship between the hero and the heroine, or the you know, whoever you're writing about, and you just want to make sure that you're doing something justice. It's like you also have to be okay yourself to are ready to tell
Absolutely, absolutely. But even with that, you've had some books that you've written in this series
that. Mhm.
that kind of put you in a different headspace.
Yeah.
And so how do you overcome that? I mean, is it just by
Woo.
stopping and going back to it?
It's for me, I mean, I will say my family and friends, they all can tell a difference in me when I'm working on a crown story in particular. I feel like for me, it even goes back to Carter's Undoing. I worked on that story um, right when the pandemic was starting. That came out in April 2020. So it's like the world was shut down, and all I had to do was just to focus on Carter and Serenity's story, and just telling that whole thing, especially when it's a character where a lot of people, they just had knew him from Tamaria Madden's series, where it was 3 books that had came out before his. But for me, it had been the first Madden was introduced in the first book that I ever wrote.
Right.
So Malik was a best friend of my hero in the first book that I ever wrote. So it was a long time coming, even longer for me to come out with his story. So you're talking about that was like 8 to 10 years into my career that I was waiting to write his story, and then the world is shut down, and I'm trying to get into his headspace, and I just was feeling everything. And every time you turn on the news, you're just seeing the stuff about the pandemic, and you seeing stuff about COVID. That I was it put me in a different place where I said, okay, before I go into the crowns, I'm gonna have to find some self-healing methods for myself. I said,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to find some ways. I'm not a bath person, but my husband was like running me some water for a bath. I'm like, okay, we're gonna do some of those decompressing type of things. And I feel like after every book, that's why for me it even helps not even being necessarily like home. It helps when I'm somewhere else, even hold off in a hotel room where it's just me and the laptop, and you know, and I can cut off all the distractions, just focus on that.
One would and then yeah, Mama Tony says, about being a stranger than fiction. Yeah, fact and fiction do run parallel a lot, and then
Sure.
it's when they come together that you got you got a problem.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Sherelle, even having, even just have you make that statement just now about, life, because life is going to happen regardless, and you're
Mhm.
an author, so you authors write. So why write the series if it's that, if it does that to you?
Because that's another thing. I love to write. Um, I love what writing stories like that, how it makes me feel. I mean, I love feeling like I'm telling a story that needs to be told.
Mhm.
I love writing stuff that maybe even if it's harder for me to tell the story, I love it if it's helping someone else, or if they're emotionally invested in this series, like I am. I'll laugh, I'll cry, I
Mhm.
will have to sit in the dark sometimes, close the laptop, then open it back up. But at the end of the day, I think, because we all love reading, we all love stories, and we all love it when they touch on real life too. So I feel like um, it's not in me not to tell stories like that. You
Yeah,
know, and I've always been that type of way. So I was like, I feel like when it's stories that need to be told, if it's calling to you to tell it, then you have to
yeah.
tell it.
That's true. That
So,
that is true.
mhm.
Now, okay, when you release a book, what do you do to celebrate? I mean, because it seems like I mean, these books are really good. I mean,
Oh,
like
thank
I think you I used to say this when I talk to some of my book buddies, I just say, "Oh shoot, Sherelle is traveling. That means when she come back, she gonna gut punch us." And that's usually what you do.
that.
You
I do that.
you'll be out somewhere, hey, just jet setting it out, and then you be like, "Hey," you come back in. We don't see you on social media or anything like that. You come back in, passport stamped, and you be like, "Hey."
I
I'm
do do
here.
that. I
Let
don't
me
know if
go.
she's still I don't know if she's still listening, but Imma call out Ruby because she catches me so quick. It'd be like right when I'm like back in town or back, in the place, she'll catch me. She's like, "I know you coming out with something." I can't even tell her no because usually she's right.
Right, right, right. That's yeah, that's Ruby
I know
there.
I'm not good at that. I should get better.
No, I mean we've come to appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? It's sort of like, ooh, Christmas is coming, Christmas is coming. You know what I mean? Sherelle been on, she's been on a trip. So when she comes
Mhm,
back, I know it's gonna be something good. I myself, when I see pictures of you, off in, in really in another country or something like that, I be like, oh my God, this is gonna be good when it comes back. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, it's just a thing with you. And so we do appreciate that when you do that, but we also want you to make sure that you do self-care. We love these stories even though they are dark. I myself know how personal they are to you because they are to me. And
mhm.
um I love that you're writing it, but I want you
Thank
to, I know your mind, it's mind consuming, so we do want you to be healthy.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, okay, so Sherelle, so like, okay, I really got a question I want to ask, but I cannot do this to everybody. But guys, oh my
Oh,
God, I just,
it's about Creed?
yeah, I want to know
Oh,
about Creed. But I'm gonna wait. You've got to come back, maybe sometime next month, and we just got to talk about it because well, in Keaton's book, you had me scared to go on the block because, like, the way Creed left, and
Yeah,
I was just like, oh. And I think at that point, let's talk about Duchess a little bit. Maybe that'll help me before I won't slip.
okay.
But Duchess is this boss chick, and
Mhm.
even I mean, everybody shuts up when she comes into the room.
Yes.
Queenie does.
Mhm.
And even Queenie is a boss chick too now.
Yes, she is.
Let's not discount her. But when she steps in, everybody sits down and listen, even Stan. What I love about Stan, and I love that cover, by the way. I love those characters
Oh,
that you
thank
used for
you.
Stan because that was totally Stan. I loved it, loved it, loved it. But in this era, it is far and few between that you find a man
Mhm.
who just took a back seat.
Mhm.
He was always, 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 even when he was younger, riding in Duchess' shadow.
Yeah.
And now that was his girl, and he
Right.
was riding for her ride or die.
Mhm.
So I loved his character. I
Oh,
loved his
thank you.
story. Yes. And then, but now Duchess, I was kind of like, I don't know if I like her because Duchess was making these decisions for people's lives.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it. I kind of still don't really understand some of the things she does, but I know in her own in her head, she she thinks she's got it all together. So where did Duchess come from?
Ooh, Duchess came from, oh my God, she is a combination of women that I know in my life that I know and love. Um,
Mm,
and literally when I was about to come out with her story, in particularly too, I called my great aunt and I said, "You've been telling me all this time I need to write a character inspired by you." I said, "But you know what?" I said, "I feel like you're more of a queenie." And she's like, "I'm not a queenie. I'm more of a duchess." I said, "No, no, no. You're more of a queenie." And um and so the reason why Queenie too, I guess if for anyone who's read the later stories and she's appeared so much more, is that I actually got to have a conversation with my great aunt about Queenie's character where I went and I saw her. We sat down, we talked about things, and she called me, told me all these details that she wanted for her character to do, or what she wanted her to say. And I had just come out with Throne of a Pharaoh, and I was at an AC author One Love event, and then she passed away while I was there. So
oh,
I had to go, um, leave the next morning. I left, and and that was a whole ordeal. But after that, I said, okay, you know what? I said, I actually got to sit and talk to her. I said, let me reach out to the people who've inspired Duchess and see, and just kind of, you know, see if they've been reading it and they feel like I've pulled some stuff from them, because I said I was, but I didn't know if they had actually read the books like I had given them to read. Um, and those conversations were just even better. I mean, I feel like it just really put me in a whole different mindset when it came to really wanting to share her story. But I
Mhm.
just had to wait until it was the right time to share her story.
Mhm.
And I do feel like her character is controversial, but I also grew up in a really matriarch heavy family. We are women heavy. I have so many cousins, and I mean, out of the 20 of us, only two are boys. So it's what I
Wow. Wow. Wow.
mean. So it's, I mean, the how Stan's character is and stuff like that, and how the men are, I guess, in that book and how they pay attention and listen to Duchess, it is very much in a type of family that I grew up in. Really strong black women. I just really wanted to show that in the story. And I do feel like, sometimes when it comes to making the decisions for the family, sometimes the decisions they may not be the right ones. They may be hard ones for others to, understand. But I feel like no one could say that Duchess doesn't love the mess out of her family and love the mess out of her,
Mm.
and love to mess out of Stan. So it's like she's, even when I hear about people feeling like she's controversial, I actually like that, because that means you're having a conversation about her, even if you
Right,
don't like
right.
all the decisions that she's making. So
But I think when you wrote her story, very powerful story, and she said it too. She says, little tidbits of that, y'all, do you really want to know about me? Because
right,
you really don't want to know about me. But when
exactly.
she dropped that bomb in her story,
Hmm.
you understand that this woman had the weight of the world on her,
Yeah.
because she had to have eyes on every one of her kids,
Hmm.
every one of her enemies,
Yeah.
every one of her allies.
Right.
And usually in like a mafia type story, it's usually the man who
Yep.
is doing that.
Yes. Yes.
And when she saw that story, I was like, okay, I think I get it now. I think I get it now. And then the thing with Creed, um, when him finding out, that she was his true biological mother,
Mhm.
and he walked out. Um, I think one thing we don't when we're angry, we walk away, and we should, but we should come back, and he didn't do that.
You didn't.
And then being a parent is hard. You have to make hard decisions, and his journey, which we find out in his story, his journey and her journey were not, it wasn't easy.
No, it wasn't. And I think too with her, I mean, with her type, with her character type, or even how she is within the series, it's like, yes, she loves hard, but she built the family that she wanted.
Hmm.
And in building the family that she wanted, it's like it's kind of hard to get over or to understand some of the decisions that she made, because they feel, like morally, they don't always
Yeah.
seem to, it's kind of just saying like, oh, I'm not sure, like as a mother, I'm not sure, as a guardian, that I would make that decision, necessarily make that decision that she made. But I guess what I was hoping that her, story did is, it's like, even if you don't like her, then you understand her a little
Yeah.
more. Like, it's like you may not like the decisions that she made, but she's unapologetically herself.
Absolutely, perfectly said. I think it was a lot said about her story. I mean, you did a wonderful job in that,
Well, thank you.
because throughout the series, I did not quite get or understand, the way I wanted to, why those kids.
Yep.
And then, you know, I don't know,
Like why she chose
she
the one out of
yeah, but she
foster
was
care.
more like a martyr though, really, and
Yeah.
that's how those kids was chosen. I mean, they weren't, I thought she just went in, I thought she was building her little army, and she just went into, like, went to adopt the ones that she
Right.
knew or whatever, but it wasn't, it was sort of like that, but it wasn't like that. It was like more or less like these are people who were friends or allies and stuff. And
It was also people who chose her to
yeah,
be the one to adopt their kids, which
yeah,
is different than what you get, in the beginning of the series when, like you said, they all line up when she comes in the room,
they
you know,
do.
and Stan is upset because he's like, y'all grown men and you gotta call me in here. Y'all gotta call us from our vacation to come handle some stuff because y'all can't handle it. Like they still come to her for a lot. So it's like it is the crown legacy, it is her legacy, but it's also you know, it also shows, and I feel like you even kind of get that in Creed's story where um, they still very much look to her for guidance and look to her for her advice. And I feel like with some of the later stories, I was trying not to have her be in it, her and Stan be in it as much because they do have to hand over the reins. And for me, I do plan on writing about the next generation of crowns. You kind of already have gotten that in my Mr. Straight Up No Chaser, which is my Bays of Juneteenth book, where you get to read about Pharaoh's oldest son. And I've introduced in Throne of a Pharaoh, Shadow Crown Academy. So I was kind of trying to prep people, in that regard. So it's like, her and Stan won't always be in that role. So she has to get her kids prepped to take over.
Yeah, I mean, they Stan and Duchess are always out. They don't come
Hmm.
home until it's a big decision that need to be made. But I don't think I'm giving any away about it. And I hear you, Miss Ruby. I'm not going to give anything away. But I think there was a scene in there where Creed comes home and unexpectedly, and
Hmm.
nobody speaks. It's almost like, she's got them so,
Like,
programmed
yeah.
to a degree. And
Mhm.
I think there were some other scenes where I think that they came together like they were, like a great family. But I want to go kind of back a little bit too, and I know our time is running out. It's already running out, but I want to find out about uh the girls, because you had one of the it was like one of the Madden books that you had the girls in, and I can't remember the story, with all of the Madden wives and everything.
Um,
What was that story? It
are you
came
talking about
out.
Materia Matic? You talking about Carter and
It was
Serenity's?
after Carter and Serenity's book, but it was the girls,
I think it was Tamaria Madden. It was the wedding story.
Yeah, okay, and so all of the girls are on the
Yeah.
cover.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so then when we got that story, and then you came over here with the the girls in the Crown series, I thought
Yeah.
there was gonna be something there. I thought you were gonna kind of spin off and do something with them because they had the thing where they were teaching
Um,
self defense and everything,
at Lace,
like that.
they worked at Lace and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that
I
was.
never I never said I wasn't gonna.
Oh, hey, hey, I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that. And I do crafting, and I had a whole thing lined up with those
Oh,
girls.
really? We're
Yes,
gonna have
yes,
to
yes,
talk.
yes. Yes, I had a whole thing lined up because it was the significance in that story was the bracelets. They all got bracelets.
Oh yeah, they did.
And yeah,
Mhm.
I had a whole look, my mind was going with that right there. So yeah, we're gonna need us some bracelets. We're
Oh,
gonna
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, so I thought, and with that, and I thought it was pretty cool in there because, even in the Crown series, you had some women that had, they spent off of what the guys were
Mhm.
doing and they had their own thing and was
Right.
running. So I loved that. And then that was when we met Tristan
Mhm.
in that book too. And we you broke our hearts when she passed away.
I
But
know.
now I know you felt like Tristan had to leave at that point. But at what point did you decide to give us Tristan's story? Which, by the way, thank you for that.
Oh,
Uh,
you're welcome. I always wanted to give her a story. I always knew she was gonna have a story because um I just felt like because she was a secondary character, but even though she was a secondary character, she was married to one of the, main siblings that was gonna eventually get, his whole story. Um, so I didn't just want to give her a voice, but I also wanted to tell her story backwards. So
Oh,
anybody who
okay.
read it, they actually get to read, if you read Love Always Tristan, you read from, when, and I don't want to give anything too much away if people haven't even read Sins of a Saint, but you just get to get,
Look here now.
well, some
That
people
was a
said
year.
they're
That was a year ago.
but but it's just you just get to read just something significant that happens in Sins of a Saint. You get to read the story backwards from her perspective. Um, so it was something that was always the plan. It was something I always had wanted to do for her. And then in the series, you kind of had the prelude, which was Face Down Fridays, that kind of introduced you to them, and hers was the interlude, which was the break
Hmm.
of the main characters in the series. So that's why also hers came out so close to Throne of the Pharaoh, because it was
Yes.
just like a short insert break from the main narrative, just so you can see like you know a little more into her.
Yeah, you taught me something there. I knew about the preludes. I didn't know about the interludes. Because I think I didn't. I asked you like, what is that?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
there was a lot of people that asked me that. I mean, I don't I it's not because I had seen it done before. I had
Hmm.
just wanted to do I was actually at a play, and I was at a Broadway play, and I said, "You know what?" I said, "This really fits my series," because I was like, I don't know if it was gonna fit. I would have had to add her part on to another story. Which was nothing wrong with that either, but I kind of wanted it to stand on its own.
Oh my God,
So,
yes. Oh my God, yes. That was
no,
like, oh my God, that story. I mean, you have really run the gamut of emotions since Carter. Uh,
I feel it myself too.
oh my gosh. Well, I know it is way past our time, and I know we got to come back again. I want you to know that I think I speak for all of us how much we enjoyed this series, and we just can't get enough of it. Um, but so thank you, thank you, thank you for writing it. Now, if you could just tell us what you got coming next, and
So,
when, if you know.
yes. I do. So I am still writing the Naughty Season series, but as far as the Crown Legacy is concerned, for me, this is for me. I will say that it's the last sibling to get a story, so it is the last in the Crown Legacy, but it's not like the for me. It's see you later.
Hmm.
It's not. It's not see you never. It's see you later. Because I definitely feel like there are other families, other um allies that they have who I want to get stories, and I also want to dive more into the next generation for the crowns. I kind of feel like when I give the bonus scenes, or when I give little stuff that I drop in the book that may, someone asked me, "Oh, like is it will you doing a story about this later?" I almost always have a story idea for that particular for all of my characters for the future. Um so I just oh my god, I almost said something I'll be giving something away for Creed's story. But yes, so I do
Look,
I
we'll take it. We'll take it.
well no,
No,
because
let
I
me
didn't
say,
want
but
to
no,
mess
'cause
it up, and I was
yeah,
thinking about what Ruby said
Ruby
too.
said no. So yeah, and I think it's more than just Ruby that is out there. So
Yeah,
we're gonna be good. We have done a really good job, so we don't want to mess up now.
but it's
But
I
we
do
coming back. We coming back, y'all. So get started
definitely
reading on.
this world I'm gonna be writing more about. I
Okay.
think too someone had asked would I be writing something like lighter, like if I write rom-com, it'd be something like Hollis and Obey, where it's rom-com tied into into
But
into this world. It's I mean, that's the type of comedy stuff I will come out with now, not so much like the social experiment series. And I think how I felt after finishing In Creed We Trust is I was like, um, I literally said out loud, like, thank you for bleeding through the pages for me, because that's how it felt working on his story. And that's why I knew I had to dive right into the next thing, which I guess if we chat some more, I could share about after people start reading and
yeah,
Greek.
guys, if you have not read this already, honey, this is one that dropped the ball because I did not remind you all that you needed a book buddy in order to dive into this story. This is one where you got to have that viable book buddy that you can call in the middle of the night and say WTF. because that was all through the book. Like I'm like,
I did get messages in the middle of the night. Actually, I got emails too. I got some of everything.
thank you guys. Thank you guys. So we're happy that Sherelle is still going to continue this trend because I don't know about you guys, but I'm not ready to leave the family. Duchess taught me something in her book when I was telling y'all I was scared to go on the block. You know, she was just like, okay, you gonna be a punk or what? Because if you gonna roll with us, you gonna have to be there. So I said, honey, I'm showing up. I'm showing up. So I'm on the block, y'all. In fact, I'm about to set up residency on the block. So I'm ready. Yeah. So okay, so you got a little something coming on. You're gonna continue the series.
Mhm.
Do we have any timelines of when we doing something?
Well, so I actually just announced earlier today that I have some Crown Legacy packages on my website. They are
Mm,
different levels of packages because they are tied into like a collector's edition um, planner and journal that includes like the favorite quotes from the series, like some character spotlights and different things like that. And people who get those packages would probably find out what's next first.
mm.
That'd be a nice little surprise with those.
Okay, I'm gonna put your website in there so they can get that. So, oh wait, I have to get yours is not just your name.
No, my website is my name.
Oh, okay. I thought it was something else. Oh, tell us too. So since you were doing this, you changed. So you have the Black Lush,
Hmm.
and then so now I see that you write up under Pink Coffee. Tell us a little bit about
Oh,
that.
Coffee Pink Creative.
Mm-hmm.
That's my overall umbrella. So
Okay.
everything can go underneath there. But Black Lush. So also on my website I have what's called a little pink book, and it's something that's just free to download, and it's basically like just um an introduction into all my books in my world and kind of keeping things straight. You
Mm-hmm.
see like a list of all the books that are out. If there's any books listed on there that you can't find, especially like the Kamani ones, it's probably because I'm going to be re-releasing it soon. So I'm
Oh,
excited about those re-releases as well.
uh,
So yeah, so this Coffee Pin Creative is just like the my brand for everything.
okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your re-releases? What are you going to be doing with them? What can
Yes.
we expect?
Um,
Okay.
anyone who may have read the Bare Sophistication series, I think the first four books in that series, the first one came out in 2015. Um, so they are cousins of the Maddens, actually, and they are in the Black Lush world. And so I purposely did not share too much about them because I was hoping I get to, get my rights back and do some stuff with that, which I have. So I'm excited to re-release those, and you'll get to really dive into the Black Lush world. I'm updating all of the content, adding some bonus scenes and chapters, and just giving that a whole facelift. And so that's surrounding like I said, the Madden cousins, and they own a lingerie shop in Chicago.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
a very sexy series.
Okay. Okay. So that's good too. So we're gonna be looking forward to that. So that's something we have to look forward to. Um, what any last words you want to leave with us?
This was I enjoyed this so much. I actually have not talked about the crowns as a
I know.
whole online in quite a long time. So this was very good. And also just for anyone who hasn't gotten started on the series or who's been rocking with it since the beginning, I just appreciate you joining the journey. I know that, sometimes when it comes to certain books, especially the really emotional ones, it kind of, you have to prep yourself for it
Mhm.
like every now and then. But I appreciate everyone who has been taking a chance on it or who is going to take a chance on it, or who's been loving the characters and enjoying the series, because I appreciate it so much. I see all the comments, I see all the likes, I see all the shares, I see everything. Even if I don't respond right away, I see it and I appreciate you and I love y'all for it.
Yes, and we love you too. Sherelle, I want to really thank you for taking the time. And I know you have an enormously heavy schedule. So I really want to thank you for coming to talk to us about this series. It's been way too long. I think the last time we probably sat down about this is was Carter's book.
No, I think we did some crime. Was it Carter?
I think so.
I don't know. I love talking to you. So I
I know.
I
But
didn't
you
know.
were busy though. You know, you been listen, honey, you was wheels up and we was getting
Yeah,
started. So I was okay with that.
I know. I
But
have
then with this
feels up.
one, I'm like, no, you gotta come. You gotta explain some stuff, Lucy. You get some explaining to do. But now I feel like we couldn't really get to the end of it because in true fashion, you just released the book yesterday,
Mm,
so we do, we want to be mindful of people reading it because we don't want to give anything away.
mm.
But you did set up a spoiler group, right?
I did. I did. It's
Okay.
called Sherelle Green Spoiler Squad. I think it's some people already commented on the post underneath there. I will hop on there too.
Yeah, so for those of you all who have finished already, you can go in there and you can salivate a little bit on there until we can get her back in a chair somewhere and talk about it.
Maybe
Yeah,
next
we did. Yeah, we sure
year.
did. We did
Yeah.
a room chat. Yeah,
Yep.
it's been a minute. It's been a
Yep.
minute. Yep, you're right. You guys are right. Listen to y'all. Y'all been rocking with me for a long time, so I love y'all
Oh,
for
thank
that.
you, twin.
Yeah. It has been. It has been. Oh yeah, let's talk. We love the playlist too. Um, I'm just so happy I got Spotify, and then I could be listening to it. So I find it hard sometimes to try to find music, like just like read a book and come up with a song. That's just not one of my superpowers. So I love that when you give a playlist because then I'll be like, oh yeah, that's perfect for this, you
Oh
know.
yeah, and I used to then share them back way back when I started. I used to. It wasn't. I don't remember because it wasn't Spotify. I was using like iTunes and stuff, and it used to wasn't easily shareable. But that's what I like
Yeah.
being able to share that stuff now.
I think a lot of readers have been asking authors to, if they do, to include the playlist in the book. It just
Mhm.
makes it,
Yeah,
uh,
I actually haven't included some that I've created before, and I've gotten asked for it. So I try to be better at including it because every single book has a playlist. It's just a matter of if I share it.
yeah, yeah. Oh, we know it does. Most authors have a playlist, but it's just whether or not they share it.
Mm.
Well, again, Sherelle, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us. I appreciate it. We're gonna say good night to Sherelle for now, but we will. I as soon as I can get her back in here, we will get her back in. So we're gonna have to tell you guys good night. Have a great evening. Be safe and always be kind. And we'll talk to you soon.
Love
Bye
that. Bye.
bye.